We've had a lot of industry plants in the last few years. I mean, like a lot of them, and nobody's really talking about it anymore. So I want to have a discussion. Why do industry plants usually never succeed? If you're new here, please make sure that you subscribe. It's willarmani. I'm always here trying to give you guys more content, more videos to talk about. Let's have this discussion. So what even is an industry plant? Well, an industry plant is an artist who is secretly backed by a label but is pushed into the mainstream as independent. And they usually come out of nowhere with huge cosigns, even playlist placements, and big deals that are secretly hidden on the back burner, but these artists really are signed. To me personally, it's messed up because there are so many artists in the underground. There are so many artists who are trying to make names for themselves. Instead of those artists getting any spotlight, labels put all this backing and all this budget and all this money into these artists who basically came out of nowhere but are pushed to an extent of a mainstream artist. And I'm putting that in quotations because these artists are mainstream, but they're marketed as independent. We've had a lot of industry plants in the last few years, and I kind of just want to get into why they don't even succeed in the first place. There's always going to be a lack of authenticity. You can tell when these artists are being manufactured. You could tell, especially when they come out of nowhere and they're put on these big blog pages, or you literally can't escape them. And I am not calling any specific artist a industry plant, but what I'm going to do is list a few artists who people have predicted to be industry plants, and it has never really officially been proven that these artists have been industry plants, but you know, we can beg to argue that. Ian, who recently came out of nowhere and was pushed like crazy. Forbats was coming out of nowhere and pushed like crazy and literally had a Drake feature within the month that we've discovered this artist and came out of nowhere. Ian Dior, Rich Amiri, some people even argue Ice Spice. Now, I'm going to say this again, I'm not personally saying that I believe that these artists were industry plants, and I think some of the artists that I named actually had a following and grew a fan base before that they got discovered, but I will say these artists are artists who did come out of nowhere and did kind of get pushed into the mainstream and get that big button held onto them. That lack of authenticity in some of the artists that I named is the reason why some of them are either not going to succeed or are slowly going to lose their fans and their fan base. You can't fake a personality. You can't fake charisma. You can't fake authenticity. When these artists are pushed and marketed, at first it looks like all amazing, like oh my gosh, like they have cool music and they have a cool style and they have this and this, but eventually it usually fades away because you can't fake personality, you can't fake charisma. When an artist is marketed to that extreme, we kind of ignore who they really are as a person until a month or two or three later when the music comes out and it's not like amazing. If the music isn't amazing, then the next thing that you do, and the music isn't original, the next thing you do is you look at the artist for themselves. You look at their personality, you look at their persona. And a lot of times with these industry plants, we come to realize that they don't really have personalities. They don't really have anything like that. And really it's because personality and authenticity is something that has to be developed. Character is something that has to be developed over time, and when an artist doesn't get a chance to develop that, we can't really blame the label sometimes, and we can't really blame the artist because you're pushed into the mainstream, you're given all of this clout and all of this success early on before your career is really able to be established within yourself. You can't develop your personality because you were pushed into the mainstream, and now you're at a level where you have to just keep up the momentum. So there's arguments there where we could say that these industry plants, they just have to kind of roll with the punches, if you will. Another reason we could talk about is the fact that there is no organic growth with an industry plant. With a regular artist or with an underground artist, for example, there is that organic growth. There is that organic feeling of I am rolling with this artist until they blow up, and when they blow up, you feel like you were really there for the ride. You feel like you were really there with that artist. So even if that artist doesn't have the best personality, you connect with them on a deeper level because you were able to see them when they were nothing, and now they have this fan base, but you were a part of that fan base before anybody even knew about it. When these industry plants come out of nowhere, they might get fans off of a few songs, but there is no organic growth. When these artists come out of nowhere, they don't have the ability to have a real strong backbone, if you will. When something doesn't go right in their career or when a song flops, still have people who are gonna ride or die for them. Why are you gonna ride or die for an artist who came out of nowhere and just gave you a hit song? Because songs come left and right. Hit songs come left and right all the time. But artists who are really there, who are going to stay with you no matter what, are the artists who developed those fan bases and developed that organically. A lot of people don't like to say positive things about Fago anymore, but I still like to because I think Fago, regardless of where he's at right now, and I hope he's doing okay. I remember being there when I was in high school listening to Fago, and he was at a few thousand followers. And although he isn't really supporting his fan base as he quote unquote should be right now, people to this day still ride with Faygo because he built that fan base and he really connected with his fans at one point in time. He was really able to constantly stay. Even artists like Lil Tecca, they constantly give their fans something, and even in the beginning, their personality didn't change when they hit the mainstream. I don't know if we could say the same thing about Faygo, I'm sorry, but it's that organic growth and it's that organic rise to the top that allows an artist who isn't an industry plant to really stay and really flourish compared to an industry plant. Another reason why industry plants usually don't succeed is because their success is hype driven. When you have hype around an artist, like let's use Forbats for an example. Forbats is never gonna see this video. Forbats is never gonna come at me. And if he does, I like your music, Forbats, I do, but we can't knock the fact that you came out of nowhere. Are we gonna say that industry plants are bad? Yes or no, da da da, you can argue that. But when an artist comes out of nowhere like that and you get all of that push, once the hype dies down, their career usually goes with them. Because without that hype, sometimes the artist isn't anything. Forbats was an artist who was pushed into the mainstream, then he got OVO signed for a project and he got Drake feature and everything like that. There was so much hype around him, but so much hype to the point where we couldn't really see who he was as a person or see what the music really had and if the music really had substance to hold on to. Once the hype fizzled out, so did his career. And I'm not going to say that he doesn't have a chance of becoming a big artist past what he had, because every artist has a chance to do that thing. Every artist has a chance to become bigger than their big moment. But when you get propelled to that hype, once that hype is taken away, if there's nothing, if there's no backbone to hold you up, you're gonna fall down. There's so many reasons why these industry plants usually don't last. There's so many reasons why these industry plants usually aren't able to hold their own. You can't fake all of these things. Even smaller artists who don't have a big following, a lot of the times are doing better than industry plants, because at the end of the day, industry plants are one thing and it's fabricated. The growth is fabricated. The push into the mainstream is fabricated. And sometimes even the streams and the amount of fans that are really there, fake. It's all fabricated. A big question I want to ask though is it the label's fault or the artist's fault when an industry plant fails? I'm honestly on both sides. I don't really know. I think it could sometimes be the artist's fault, but I also think a lot of the times the label has a lot to do with it, because once they don't have a hit or two after that hit that they pushed like crazy, a lot of the times they'll get dropped from the label and then they're really lost, because not only did they have that success from that one hit and people are going to call them one hit wonders, but once they're dropped from the label, they have to really kind of find their own, and they weren't able to find their own on their own in the first place because the label pushed them. So I don't know, but do you think it's the label's fault or the artist's fault when an industry plant fails? You let me know in the comments below. This video is something that's really interesting topic to me. I think industry plants are a really interesting topic because some people don't really like them, and then a lot of the times what we don't realize is there have been many successful industry plants. There have been many successful artists. We can even argue and say in the past every single artist was an industry plant, because every single artist, there was no social media. You had to get signed to a label in order to be discovered in the first place. So we can argue that too, but let's have discussions in the comments. I really want to see what you guys are thinking about this topic. If you feel good, please make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you like this video so you don't miss out on any videos in the future. Follow me on Instagram, willarmani with 2 eyes, if you don't want to miss out on my own music and my own content over there. It's been your boy willarmani. Stay positive.